I'm Paul Schacht, and I think it's critical that you start thinking about your legacy as early in life as possible.
Welcome to the Redirect Podcast, where we explore what comes after career. Real conversations about transitioning from the 9-to-5 grind to your next great adventure. Whether you're heading into retirement or simply redefining what purpose means, we're here to inspire, inform, and help you reimagine what's next. This isn't the end of the road. It's the start of something new. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be with you yet again. And we're looking forward to another dynamic conversation with our guest today, Paul Schacht. But before we get started, got a question for you, as we always do. Have you ever had to take a stance at work that doesn't conform with your workplace culture and held fast to what you believed in, and what was the outcome?
I'll jump into that because I think about that, and being part of men's groups, you're always talking about work and the impact at work. I do remember I made a lot of presentations, as a lot of us have. And the start of the Crossroads story was an entrepreneurial story. And I used that as a way to be able to bring my faith in God to work, because the presentations I made, I was showing big customer experience centers that we had created. And I threw a picture of Crossroads up there early on, and that was one of my case studies. How important case studies were. My case study was talking about this place called Crossroads in the start. And it was risky because you don't talk faith, you don't talk church typically in your presentations that you are making to either tell people about the impact of centers or you're pitching to a client. But without regard, I never got a kickback. I never got any blowback from it. And what I got were people coming up and saying, tell me more about Crossroads. And my risk was, you don't do that in the workplace. I just thought it was one of the greatest stories ever told, and I was going to tell it, and it was going to be a part of my pitch. In addition to that, I made a commitment to God to say every day I will tell someone about the Crossroads story, because it was an easy story. But every day the commitment was, I'm bringing that to first class, comfort, coach, wherever I was sitting. I was going to talk to somebody, and it was an easy story really to bring up and tell, because it was about this entrepreneurial startup that just happened to be a church. Adam.
My version of that is I was working kind of my first job in the industry that I currently occupy. And the leadership team and all of the downstream supervisors, they would all participate in this monster Christmas party and different things that they would do socially outside of work. And they were pretty ruckus. I mean, they weren't just your average holiday party with a few drinks. They were pretty over the top. And they would come tell stories about all of the borderline debauchery that was going on. It was pretty tough. And I was, in my faith walk at the time, that was just something I was not going to participate in, and I didn't go to those parties. I didn't go to any of the social events from work. And then after about 3 years of that, my manager at the time came to me and said, "Hey, you've been identified as someone who is, on a track to leadership, but you don't participate in this, and that is holding you back. You're never going to get to there unless you participate in this." And I said, "Thank you for that." And still never went. I knew why. I knew the course, and I knew if I wanted to grow in my career beyond what I was doing, I just wasn't going to be able to do it there. Mm-hmm. And 2 years later, I had moved companies, but I stepped into a leadership position over there and thrived, and it went really well. But it was a hindrance to my career for sure, the choice I made.
Myself, I make it a point. I'm not really a guy that swears a bunch. Definitely not, big words that we all are not supposed to say. I was working for a company years ago, and we were at this senior level management meeting. There were probably, 120 of us there, and the CEO of the company's up front and doing his State of the Union, and he's just dropping F-bomb after F-bomb after F-bomb. I'm just sort of dropping my head and closing my eyes and just sort of like, So that, meetings are over. That night we go out for a pizza place. This is in Connecticut, and I come walking through the door, and there's the senior table of all the senior management of the company, and the CEO says, "Curt, got a second?" And I'm like, "Sure." He says, "Here, sit down next to me." I said, "Great." And I said, "How you doing?" He goes, "Pretty good." He says, "I sort of noticed today you got a little upset, or you didn't like the way when I was sort of using language." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "That's me. I try not to do that. And when I see you, you're an educated individual. You're a leader of our company. And I don't think you need to talk to us like we work on the factory line, or you shouldn't have to talk to anybody like that, actually." And he goes, "Appreciate that." He says, "Well, tomorrow's another day." I said, "You do what you do, but it's just that's how I see it. You just hold this position in the company. You don't need to do that." So the next day comes along, and he's up front, and he gets on one of his rolls, and all of a sudden he goes, "That son of a," and then our eyes connected, and he smiled, "Gone." and then at the end of the meeting, as you know, with big people in the room, everybody wants to be a part of the big person in the room.
Right.
He's like a salmon swimming through all these people that are coming to him to talk about things, and he comes by, he says, "Curt, how did I do?" And I said, this is up to you. Thank you. I appreciate the effort that you put forth, but it's up to you. And he says, "Fantastic. Thank you for this. Next time you come into the office, come on up into my place. I want to show you a picture of me with Mother Teresa." And I'm like, "Well, thank you for that." I wasn't doing that to change him. It's just that was my standard, and that's what I believed in. So it was my little personal thing that I still do to this day, but it's hopefully something that people will listen to and maybe say, maybe I don't need to use it like it's the word "the." So
this is a great setup for our friend of the Redirect podcast today.
Who might that be, Dale?
Well, our friend of the Redirect podcast today is Paul Schacht, who I've known for, help me with this, 25
years.
Almost 30 years,
Almost
something
30.
like that. Yeah, we were in a small group together years and years ago. But, I got to know Paul personally as well as professionally. So we got to play on both sides. I got to do a big project with you. But, you're in now, year 2 of your retirement?
Just entered year 2.
And I'm going to ask you how it's going in a minute here, but I want everybody to get a feel for where you're coming from, because you had almost 40 years with both P&G and Duracell together. You were with P&G, and P&G
Correct.
Spun off Duracell, and 8 of those years was vice president GM of the big battery company. During your off time, you were extremely involved with the Miami Valley Christian Academy, serving on the board and doing a lot of work there. I think I've always recognized you, Paul, as, just someone who really knew the value of family. You do, the relationships that you've developed, the need to have a legacy mindset. And you talk about that right at the top of our program. For me, you've been a well-rounded leader, mentor, and you're sharing your experiences now, with, young adults so they can realize their value and build their legacy. I've known you and Shally, for a while, and you're a father to Christian, Justin, and Alexis. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So, Paul, what's your answer to that question? Have you ever been confronted with a situation in your workplace that you sort of put your, not just in the sand, you went down to the bedrock?
Yes, absolutely, multiple times. But I started with Procter & Gamble in 1986. The coffee division, Folgers Coffee, came down to school to recruit with the sales function. And I was fortunate enough to get the job. At that time, P&G sales was more of a take-it-or-leave-it culture as it related to moving. And they weren't the only one. I think a lot of companies were that way at the time. So I proceeded to move 5 times in the first 10 years, 5 different locations. And then Shally and I had met her in Columbus, Ohio on one of the moves. And then we had moved from Pittsburgh to Cincinnati in 1995, where we started to settle. And I'll never forget this. So this would have been the late 90s. But my boss at the time took me to the window in the general offices. And some of you know there is a bank of flags right outside the front near the entrances. And he says, Paul, do you see that flag third from the end? I said, yes. So I start to get a little bit nervous. And he says, do you know where that is? I said, absolutely not. Where is it and why? And he says, well, that's where the company wants to send you. And now I'm, goosebumps, sort of excited, a little scared. He says, the company wants to send you to Uzbekistan. And all I heard was
one of the stands.
One of the stands.
That's all I heard. And so the excitement turned into a bit of fear. I had no idea where it even was. I just knew it ended in Stan, and not all
Did
the
you
stands
maintain
are
the
best.
smile on your face, or by that time were you
I'm sure I
visibly
was pitted out.
uncomfortable?
I was sweaty. So he has a smirk, and remember, this is the late 90s. So,
How old were you? How old were you?
So I was about 33 at the time.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
33,
Wow.
34.
Okay.
Early in your career.
Pretty early in my career. And what he said is this is one of the last white spaces for the company. Company was trying to, be everywhere, essentially. It was one of the last spots, and they want you to run the country. So he said, I'm going to send you home this weekend with an album, an album of pictures, photographs, that describe a little bit what it's like, and then also a VHS tape. And I want you and your wife to look at these and then come back on Monday and tell me if you'd like to do a look-see visit. So I give credit to the company because we go home, we throw the VHS tape in. And there's two stories I'll tell. One is there's a guy that lived in a P&G employee that lived in a neighboring country. And he gets on and he says, the food in Uzbekistan is tremendous. Like for 8 months of the year, it's some of the best fruits and vegetables you'll ever have in your life. And then he goes, the other 4 months, it's actually a little hard to find food. Whoops. So we're like, oh, that's interesting. I'm surprised you didn't edit that out, P&G. And
Have to bring a lot of Pringles.
A lot of Pringles, exactly. And then there was a lady who lived in a neighboring country, and she was pregnant. Her spouse was the employee, and they asked her, are you going to have your baby over here? And she says, heck no, I'm going back to New York City.
And they left this in the video.
They left this in the video. I think they wanted folks to know, hey,
Real.
this is not going to be easy.
It's real. Yeah.
And so I appreciated that. Well, we had 2 young children at the time. And so my wife, Shally, looks at me and she says, look, you can go if you want to, but I'm not going. So that was one of the easier decisions. But then over the next 6 years, so this would have been, now we're in the early 2000s, I was asked to go to the P&G Walmart team down in Arkansas twice by the vice president of sales in North America and turned it down twice. That did have some repercussions, but
Bentonville didn't sound good?
I'll tell you what, the Walmart
It didn't end in Stan.
This was a time when Walmart was on a rocket ship, and they were sending some of the best folks down there. And I knew a bunch of people, and I knew it would be great professionally, and those folks would do that role and then get promoted really quickly. But it just didn't feel right for the family. So I turned it down.
Your priorities obviously are focused on your family, and you are willing to sacrifice any type of major professional growth because you're standing firm on that, which back then, anti-culture, especially at that age, and even today. How did you have the courage and the strength to state that with confidence and say, hey, still got a good resource here. I'm still willing to work hard, and I'd like to advance, but I'm just not going to be doing that.
Well, truth be told, I was extremely nervous about those decisions, and I knew there would be some repercussions, and there were. It took me a lot longer to get promoted. There was a period in there where P&G had a promotion list, 15 to 20 people that were promotable. They took me off the list. And so that was a big consequence. But about this time, I was in a Bible study. I can't remember if it was with you, Dale, or a different one. But I heard the concept of legacy. And essentially what they said was legacy is what's going to be written on your tombstone, or it's what somebody's going to say in the eulogy about you at your funeral. And it just hit me like, oh, that's really important, and I want to do the best I can with that. And so I need to start thinking about that now. And that certainly played into my decision. It just wasn't the best for my family. Dale mentioned it in the beginning, but in 1996 there were 2 startups here in Cincinnati, and my wife and I got involved heavily with both of them. One was a little church that started in Hyde Park with 400 or 500 people called Crossroads, which now is not so little anymore. And the other was a Christian school in Newtown, Ohio, called Miami Valley Christian Academy, that is also not a little school anymore. We poured ourselves into those 2 organizations, just felt called to do whatever we could to lift those up and build those. And that was a big reason why we decided to stay. And my son also, one of my sons had some health issues, and the doctor base was here, and it just didn't feel right to uproot.
Well, as an attender to Crossroads and as a grandparent to kids who go to MVCA,
excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. You know, now after this many years of seeing what's gone on with those organizations, how they've most importantly impacted my life and my family's lives, I'm so glad we made those decisions.
I have a really strong appreciation, certainly because I understand the P&G culture, and P&G culture is up or out.
Yes.
You know, and you making decisions that early in your career for your family was extremely unique. Yes. Because everybody, and probably me included. I mean, you know, I went up to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and said yes to that, and I was just like, why did I do that? But I'm doing it because I'm on that treadmill. I'm on that. How fast can I get promoted?
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
And I did that as well. You know, those first 10 years, moved 5 times, and we settled in Cincinnati. And as I said, it just felt like we need to be here, and we need to be here for a while.
When those situations came on up where something was offered to you and you said no, did you have a plan B?
No, I did not have a plan. The plan B was essentially leave the company. And I didn't want to leave P&G. It's a wonderful firm. I was learning. I was growing. So that was really it. But I did not want to compromise my family.
What advice would you give to somebody that is in today's work world, young person? Is there any words that you could throw out to them for them to consider?
Yeah, so just be bold, take a risk. Again, now I'm on the other side of 40 years of working, and I can see now where the title doesn't matter, the money doesn't matter. It's all about people and relationships. And the most important ones are your immediate family relationships. And so when it's all said and done and all of a sudden you have more time, like I do now, it's about those relationships, and they're going to be good or bad. And the decision of which way that's going to go is formed very early in life when they're under your roof and you're influencing them. And so now I look back, and it was absolutely the right decision.
Have your kids sort of modeled this behavior as well that you exhibited?
Yeah, so fortunately, all 5 are in town. We have 3 children, 2 are married. There are no grandkids yet, but they are all actively, gainfully employed and in the thick of their careers. My wife started something a couple of years ago, which it's just been fantastic. We have a weekly dinner on Tuesday nights, and they come.
Wow.
And I think
that's
they
a blessing.
Come. It is a blessing. I think they come because of the free food.
But
pay to play. Pay to play.
Whatever it takes.
Get used to that.
Whatever it takes. But we have some of the best conversations we've ever had as a family at these Tuesday dinners. So when the weather's nice, some of us might play golf, play pickleball. We'll swim, we'll eat, and we'll talk. And there's things that come up, like recently I think this was in the last 6 months. So they're all in the thick of this again, late 20s, early 30s. And they reminded me that when I was younger in my career, I would coach them in sports, loved to coach. And so I coached a little bit of basketball, a lot of baseball, a little football, a little soccer for about 15 years for each of them growing up. And there were times that I had to leave that general office downtown early at like 3 p.m. So keep in mind, this was in the 2000s. The company was still trying to – it wasn't like when I started, but they were still trying to figure out what does employee flexibility look like. And there were multiple days where at 3 o'clock I would roll up put my computer in my bag, put it over my shoulder and walk out. And I remember seeing heads turn and people looking at me like, what the heck is that guy doing? Yeah. Now, I had pre-cleared this with my boss. I'm not stupid. If I had more work to do, I got on it at night. But at the time, that was not really cool. But man, am I glad I did that, because that's what the kids are talking about now. Like, first of all, they're saying, how did you do that, Dad? I don't know. I can't feel like I can leave at 3 o'clock. And we're so glad you did, because those are the memories that last a lifetime.
I think this will be a good time to take a quick break. If you're enjoying our show, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could take a moment to comment. And if you like what you're hearing, leave us a 5-star review. Your feedback not only makes our day, but helps other listeners discover our content. Your support through listening, sharing, following, and reviewing means the world to us and helps our podcast grow. Thanks so much for being part of the Redirect family. So let's now get back to our conversation. Do they know your story? Do they know this story of the decisions you made at Procter? Have you?
Yeah,
has that come up?
It has in these Tuesday dinners. Yeah, it comes. That's the kind of stuff we talk about, and so that's why it's just so precious to us.
It'd be really nice if you could show them the video of the stands.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh!
I wish I still had that.
Oh my gosh!
I need to get that back.
There's a thing called Amazon. You could probably order a flag.
I bet I could.
So what other things have happened? You know, we talk a lot about your career in P&G and Duracell here. Other things, other redirects, or what we call curveballs. You know, have you had any since then?
Yeah, I would say health-wise, yes. I had a massive health issue that I'll share with you. So this was 4 years ago. So it was Memorial Weekend of 22. And I recall we had a really crowded weekend. So Friday night we went to a wedding. Saturday morning I played golf. Saturday afternoon or evening, it was a Reds game, and then Sunday was the Indy 500 in Indianapolis. And I remember getting back. One, I was very tired, but I just didn't feel right. And what you should know is I had been constipated for a few days, and I'm a really regular guy. So this was new to me.
That's why we have you on the podcast. You're a regular guy.
It's all about that. And so this never happens to me. So my wife gives me some over-the-counter pills, and lo and behold, eventually they work. Well, normally when that happens, you feel a lot better. Well, I felt a lot worse. And I'm like, oh, this is okay. Something's going on. This is not good. But I'm a typical guy, so I just wait out the symptoms and think it's going to get better. And so now we're into Tuesday night, that long weekend, and I go into a full body shake. Nothing like that has happened to me, and that really freaked me out. It felt like 2 minutes. It was probably 10 seconds, but full body shake, and then it ended. And then I'm like, I just got to sleep this off, and then we'll see what happens. Well, I did go to sleep, woke up early the next morning, and said, honey, we got to go. We got to go to the hospital. So now it's Wednesday, June 1st. Get into the local hospital, and they start hooking me up to everything and start doing all of the tests. Well, what had happened, unbeknownst to me, is I had perforated a bowel. Infection set in my abdomen. I do recall, I remember my stomach started distending, and it was really large and really hard. And so that was the first clue. Well, what happened, I had massive infection in there. And what they told me was I not only had COVID, That was probably the least of it. I was dehydrated. I was in full renal failure, so my kidneys completely shut down. And then because of that, I had sepsis, which is basically toxins in the blood. That is not good. And so what preceded was 15 days in the hospital, the first 10 on COVID protocol, so I had no visitors. First 11, no food. I remember all I could have is those hospital, chips, ice chips, and my
No
brain.
Jell-O?
No Jell-O. First 11 days.
That's kind of a blessing,
chips.
but that's okay.
The nutrient-packed ice chips.
Exactly. And I started imagining flavors, believe it or not, because I'm just eating these, and it's all I'm watching McDonald's commercials, and I'm eating chips, and I'm imagining flavors. But I actually counted. I had approximately 100 sticks of needles, whether it was procedures that were done, whether it was giving me drugs and just doing other tests. So it was quite the journey.
And where are we now on that, if you don't mind me asking?
Good. I am in a great place. I don't take any meds. I did do some damage. So what happened? The Dr. Adhikari, who is my nephrologist, my kidney doctor, he told me that first day. He said, "I think what's going on is the infection in your abdomen surely shut down your kidneys. When the infection is 100% gone, I think they're going to come back." And that's exactly what happened. It was 6 weeks later. And so my kidneys are at about 60%. I did do some damage to some of the filters. There's scar tissue on them. Here's the great thing. God gave us 2 kidneys, and you only need to operate at about 25% to avoid dialysis. And so mine will degrade a little bit, but God willing, I won't have to go through that again. That's great.
So while you had probably a lot of time in the hospital to think about it, did you start thinking legacy? Did you start thinking, what am I going to do with this?
So the good news is I did not know how sick I was. So there's a couple of – otherwise, I would have been more tanked than I was. But there were 2 real God stories. God went before me. One, when we were in the emergency room, and I'm just in really bad shape, all of a sudden a doctor friend, comes bounding through the door. And he had simply seen my name on the list. He didn't look at the chart yet. And he comes running in. And I could just tell initially when he saw me, like, oh, Paul's in trouble. But he calmed me down. We actually took pictures. I have a picture of him, my sickest moment, thumbs up, all this stuff. Well, so he calmed me down. Christmas cards, yeah. And he didn't tell me this until 6 months later, fortunately. But he went out then and looked at my chart. And I don't know what the sepsis markers are, but he basically told me 6 months later that those were the highest sepsis marker numbers he had seen in his 35-year career from somebody still living. And I'm like, Kevin, thank you for not sharing that my first day in the hospital. But Kevin did the procedures on me, put the drain tubes in to get the infection out. He put my NG tube in because the nurse couldn't get it in. He walked with me through that whole 15 days and then after, and that was really –
That's a blessing.
That was a blessing.
How did you pull yourself up during that time?
Prayer. I had so many people praying for me.
Did you find if I can piggyback on that? Yes. Did you find yourself in a dark spot? Were you mostly on top side? Are you struggling at any point?
For some reason, well, let me tell you the reason that I just felt like God had me. So when you have sepsis, you need to do dialysis. So I had 5 weeks of dialysis. I'd never done dialysis. I didn't know what that meant. But that's basically the cleaning of your blood. And so the first session I had was in the hospital, and they essentially hook you up, and your blood goes out. It goes through this filter. It looks like a water filter, you guys, and this filter machine, and then it comes back in your body. And at least for me, every ounce of blood in my body went through that machine 7 times. And it cleans it up and allows you to make it a few more days. And so the first time I'm in the room, and I'm really scared because I'd never done this. I'm still very sick. They hadn't really determined yet exactly what's going on and what the course was going to be. And anyway, I fall asleep, and I start hearing music. And I opened my eyes, and I looked at the nurse because I'm like, did she turn the music on? This is really weird. I didn't ask her.
Started to get tunnel vision.
Yeah, essentially.
Follow me.
Essentially.
Come up hither.
You're almost right, guys. And so I fall back to sleep, and I hear this. It was like a melodic, a rhythmic chanting. And that's not music I listen to, so I thought that was interesting. And then all of a sudden I see a veil. Now I'm a little nervous. I see a veil. And the veil opens. And it was like an oval shape, and I see warriors, angels, dressed in white, fierce looking. I mean fierce looking, and as far as I could tell, there were thousands of them. And they were the ones who were chanting, essentially praying. Wow. And though I didn't hear an audible voice, God told me through that, I've got you, and you're going to be okay.
Wow.
You're going to be okay.
My goodness.
That was the third day in.
Wow.
Good Lord.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. He was a good Lord.
Yes, he is.
I agree.
Well,
my.
I mean, the biggest question is, did you lower your handicap through all this?
Did
you come out a better golfer?
Tremendously. I'll tell you what was
He's
interesting.
fixated. He is just so fixated on golf. It's not even funny.
In the zone right now.
When you're in the hospital, I think I'd been before that. The longest was maybe a night in the hospital. But when you're in the hospital, it is shocking how quickly your body atrophies. Yeah. Shocking. Well, I had 15 days of that. And they're pumping me with antibiotics night and day. It took me a full year to recover my strength. I was out of work for a little over 3 months and went back but was very weak. So it took forever. So no, Dale. The handicap went way up.
It went up. Well, remember, they only take the top 10 scores. You just told me all about how they calculate that. But all right, so you made a decision to retire. I mean, we're looking for great redirection stories. Tell us about the process of you deciding to retire.
So, Dale, I'm going to redirect on you.
Go. Redirect.
I like it.
This experience, this health scare, was so big and so meaningful. I was so deeply touched. And so I wrote down, I remember some of this was in the hospital. Most of it was once I was fine, 6 weeks later, outside. But what did I learn through this? And I think it would be helpful to share some of those things. And the first one I sort of alluded to, and it's don't wait, okay? Especially this guys need to hear this. I don't know if it's ego, pride, it probably is, but a lot of guys just wait, as I did. And I was told if I waited 24 more hours, I would not be here. Yep. So that's a good lesson. I think, the older you get, the more you sort of read and understand your body, listen to your body, and act on it. So unfortunately, it took me near dying to learn that lesson, but hopefully it doesn't take that for others. So just act on it. One of the bigger things I learned was I am not in control. I am a self-professed control freak. My wife reminds me of that frequently. And I just like to be on top of stuff. And this was a situation in my life where I was completely out of control. I mean, the only thing I could do was a decision to follow the doctor and the nurse's orders or not. That's it. I couldn't do anything. And it was really sweet because I leaned on the Lord. And he's the one fully – it was a sweet spot, and he's the one who fully helped me get through that situation. Other things I learned, life is about people. We talked about that just a bit. It's about relationships. It's not about the size of your house or the title you had, the money. It's about people, and that's important to remember. I also – a few more I learned. Don't sweat the small stuff. Everyone has enough big stuff in their lives. Trust me, as the older you get, you understand that. And so, if your lawn is looking a little brown or you had a horrible golf event or your taxes are a little higher than normal this year, just let it wash off your back, because there's no sense in letting that really drain you. The final thing I'll mention was walk by faith. So when I was in the hospital, there was a board in front of me. It was a TV and then a board. Every day, I don't know why they did this, but the nurses would write the kidney marker data, the 2 kidney markers that really show the health of your kidneys, the function of the kidneys are BUN and creatinine. And so they did blood tests all day long on me. And the numbers were really bad. And they kept putting them on the board. And I'm thinking, okay, this is not good. When you have dialysis, they get better. And then the next day they got worse again. And this was the cycle for the 15 days in the hospital. So I'm looking at this, especially as the days are going by, and I'm like, this is not good. Like, the doctors couldn't tell me whether the kidneys would come back, when they'd come back. And so I had to look at these terrible numbers and just trust that God was going to heal me. He said I'm going to be okay, so I trust that. And so that was a great walk by faith lesson.
Wow. So that was 4 years ago, and you said you've been retired for 2 years now. So what are you doing now? I mean, those two things that you just shared about turning down promotion opportunities and then having a very serious health scare is more redirections than I've had in my life. Yeah. And now you're in this wonderful time of freedom. What are you doing now?
So one of the things I did not realize was how much time I would have. And like many of us, when you're building a career and you're raising a family, there's no margin. And I would say for 40
and you
years,
run like that for decades. Right? It's just it's the normal rhythm. You accept it, you move on.
You sort of it's there, but you don't really recognize it. Yeah. So for me, that was 40 years, so 4 decades, and then, at least in the corporate world, it's like a light switch. You're on, you're off. Well, once I was off, all of a sudden I had way more margin than I could ever imagine.
And no experience on how to manage it.
And no experience in how to manage it. So, that's a piece of advice in my short retirement that I give people is, hey, this is way more than thinking about the money. You've got to figure out what you're going to do with your time, because you're going to have an unbelievable amount of it, and you've got to be able to fill it appropriately. Mm-hmm. My neighbor says, every day is Saturday, Paul. And I thought that was a great comment, because I like Saturdays. I think you guys probably
most people do.
And
Saturday's a bad day to play golf. Too many people out there.
I totally agree with you. I avoid Saturday golf. But, gosh, that's a neat way of thinking about it. Like, every day there's a lot of freedom and a lot of choice. And, again, you've got to figure out what to do with that. For me, back to your question, so I would advise everyone needs a hobby. My hobby is golf, and so I do during golf season. I play 3 or 4 times a week. My wife and I love to travel, so we do a lot of that. But that's not enough. So one of the things, somebody told me this, fortunately I had about 18 months to prepare for retirement. My boss and I kind of put something in place, and so I would ask guys on the course who were retired, what advice would you give me? And I got a ton. And so one of the things I heard was you need to find the intersection between your passions and your skills. What are you good at, and what do you really want to do? And then find something in that space. So for me, outside of the travel and golf, it's mentoring. I love to teach. I love to mentor. I reconnected with my school, and they're sending me college students every once in a while. I've got spending time with some of my friends' kids, helping them navigate business and life. And then I'm also passionate about Christian education, so I went back on the Miami Valley Christian Academy board, and that's how we're filling our time.
What about community? I know that, when you're in the corporate setting, you made the comment earlier, you're on or you're off. How did that happen with all the people that you worked with? Are they on, are they off, or you got some people in the middle?
That is a really interesting question because I've been thinking about that a lot. So the first year, maybe even the first 6 months, I had one of the things I sort of prided myself on was spending a lot of time building relationships and mentoring people in work. So I had some tight relationships, people that worked for me at some point in time. And I would hear from them a fair amount. Every once in a while, I'd reach out and I'd hear from them. Year 2, it's very different. And I get it. Like life goes on. Mm-hmm. And who's Paul? I think he was my boss a while ago. But they're busy, and so they're doing things, and I've had to sort of wrestle with that. But it's just natural and normal, and I'm good.
Well, it sounded like you did some pre-work by getting yourself back involved with the school, where then now you're creating a new community.
A new community. Yeah, that's exactly right. And new friends. We are very blessed here in Cincinnati. We have a group of 7 families that our wives affectionately call the core. And we have done life together for over 25 years.
Wow.
And what that looks like is not just getting together and hanging out, but we will vacation. We still do once a year, vacation together and maybe more. We'll celebrate the things that are worthy of celebrating and grieve with each other during life's hardships. The kids all grew up together. And what a blessing it is to have that type of community in our lives as we are making new friends along the way.
So when you're looking forward, we like to call it the next 30. We're hoping that we're going to be around for a while. We don't know. It could be a week, could be next 30. But do you want to do anything differently, or how are you thinking about it?
Yeah. So what's so neat about retirement is hopefully you prepare. I had a guy on the golf course once when I was thinking about retiring. He had a line, and maybe you all have heard it. He said, it's time to retire when you have enough, when you've had enough, and when you are enough. And so just unpack that. When you have enough, that's financial, and,
sure.
and that's where some people just stop thinking. Like if I have enough, I'm good. Let's go. When you've had enough, and this is the same for me, toward the end of the career, some things just start to become a drag. Like, this isn't as fun as it maybe used to be. And so that's what that's referring to. And then maybe the third one's the most important. When you are enough, meaning you're satisfied with who you are. You don't need this job, to fulfill you, maybe like you did in the past. I thought that was super fascinating, and I've been sharing that with other people. But I think for us now, as we look forward, I have a plan for this year, but I'm so excited because something could just come along and that plan could shift, and you learn to pivot quickly. One of the things that I just feel blessed by is Shally and I, it's a season of giving back. We've been blessed. We need to give back. So not just to the church and the school, but my father started a ministry 25 years ago in the heart of D.C., and it's a really rough neighborhood. It's probably the most poverty-stricken area of D.C. It's a little community called Anacostia. And he started this with his church and the help of another church, and poured his life into it. My father is no longer living, but my siblings and I are now actively involved and created a scholarship in my father's name to offer students from that high school either college or a trade. And so that's a new thing that we started to pour ourselves into, not just financially, but really helping this organization. And I'm sure there'll be other pivots in the future.
When you have the time to do it. I mean, it sounds like you're pretty aware of your margins and keeping the time to be able to do it. You're not overloading yet.
Correct.
Something you've learned in your career not to do.
Correct. I had somebody tell me, again, I got so much advice. Just you got to ask people that are in this season, and you're going to get a ton.
You made this comment, and I think we can all relate to this, especially being guys, that when we're in the corporate world, we're challenged, we grow, we develop because of the environment that we're in. When you step out of the corporate world and you have this wonderful freedom, where do you see you're going to be growing? Where do you want to grow?
Yeah. So my desire, which we've been able to do, is spend a whole lot more time with the family and with the kids, and I'm super excited someday, hopefully being a grandpa. So I want to grow. I want to continue to be available. Once I got out of college, I didn't live anywhere close to my parents, and now I look back, and they were great parents, but I didn't have this kind of regular communication about life with them. I missed out. And, fortunately our kids are here, so we get to see them, and I can see the power in that, in helping them and helping us. So that's something I really want to continue.
So you're in their lives, and as a result, you're learning from them, and hopefully they're pulling some nuggets from you, and that's what legacy is all about, is giving yourself to that next generation, right?
That's exactly right.
Fantastic.
Great wisdom. I really like that saying. Say that again.
So it's time to retire, when you have enough, when you've had enough, and when you are enough.
That's great.
Hopefully you don't get royalties on that, because you're probably going to hear that in the future on this podcast.
No royalties needed.
We will be doing it.
Well, Paul, this has been a very entertaining session for me, and again, talk about redirections. You've had yours, and some very drastic, and some normal processes. But I thank you so much for coming in today, sharing your story, and sort of making us sort of focus on things that probably are a little bit bigger than some of the things that we place value in that maybe we should reconsider to a degree.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much it's back to seeing you live. Really, really enjoyed our relationship and look forward to reconnecting more, and maybe we'll go out golfing.
There it is. I was waiting when the golf invite would come up.
He's only asked me that about 10 times.
And if you need a third.
Curt's name has come up as well. So we will make that happen.
We're just here to help you in your early retirement stage.
You're here
of
to coach
redirecting.
Me.
Yes.
You're here to coach
we'll
me
help
on
you
the
take
course.
your slice and make it down the middle of the fairway. That's a redirection.
Paul, thanks for coming and sharing your story. It's been a blessing, and thank you for joining us on the Redirect Podcast. Big thanks to the University of Cincinnati's 1819 Innovation Hub for allowing us to use the eSports recording studio to record today's podcast. Catch up on all the Redirect Podcast episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. To begin your Redirect journey, head over to redirect-u.com. Want to connect with the Redirect team? Feel free to email us at info@redirect-u.com. Remember, there's purpose in your life, so find it and go do something about it.
Hey, I've got one more comment. The Redirect Podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We engage in an open, honest conversations about personal growth, life transitions, and the lessons we've learned through our own experiences. While we speak as experts in our own lives, we are not licensed therapists, medical professionals, or certified coaches. The content shared on the Redirect Podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of qualified professionals for any physical, mental, or emotional concerns that you may have. We're grateful to share this space with you and hope that our stories inspire reflection and connection. If you're in need of more support, we encourage you to connect with a trusted professional who can help.